recently, Just Roll With Its Vampire the Masquerade campaign called The Suckening has ended, for now. And there are still many questions on the people's minds, such as, when are the Weylins from? What happened to Theo Soda Collins? Is the Queen still alive? Where is Grefgor? This video is not about any of that. I have one sole question in mind, and this is to prove that point. This video will detail the life and crimes of one Edward Twilight. Welcome to the Twi-Files. Small cut in the bit, this video will contain spoilers for Just Roll With It, The Suckening. Also, general trigger warning for these topics. Egocentrism, megalomania, sparkly. These three adjectives can only define one man, vampire. A vampire with such acclaim that he is noted as the primogen of the Toreador clan of Los Angeles. Better yet, the self-proclaimed prince of said city-state. Edward Twilight is certainly a creature, to say the least, but something about his life has piqued my interest. How did he get to where he is now, despite being the most insufferable character throughout the entire show? Let's start off by talking about what we know. The subject, Edward Twilight, was a fledgling vampire, presumably under the old primogen or elder of the Toreador clan. He was low on the echelon of vampiric society, but not a thrall. He was a full vampire. He was like a busboy, a nobody of importance in a society where status is everything, and he hated it. I talked it over with one of my colleagues, and we came to the same conclusion that this is not too dissimilar to the scornful attitude people from the Hamptons feel toward Manhattanites when they travel out east for the weekend. That is to justify that I think Mr. Twilight is from Long Island. Not only is this comparison example, it just feels right. From this observation, you could tell he hated being on some of the same level of status but being treated lower. To continue on this Edward Twilight biopic, one day while playing bellhop for his vampiric family, he passes a building emanating red and white lights. He defects from the group and walks in. Then, what seems like mere minutes later, he re-emerges onto the street with a new outlook on life. Well, new look indeed. Notably a fixed nose and larger pursed lips, and it stays like that. He is forever framed with this look on his face. Most would say a fate worse than death. Others are just plain wrong. He then goes on over the next few months or so, rising in status that one day the elder vampire, once at the head of the table, seemingly disappears, and Mr. Twilight takes that seat. With everyone smiling and enjoying themselves drinking blood, Mr. Twilight watches everyone of different clans enjoy a glassful. All the while, blood, his blood, seeps through his white shirt sleeve. With this knowledge, with this information, I feel like I could safely infer something prolific on how Edward Twilight rose to the position he holds today. It's simple, really. A simple act if you are desperate for power and status. He committed the heinous act of diablerie upon his sire. Case closed, right? Hold on. There's gotta be something more. Something bigger here. So I decided it was time to do some proper research. After doing some well-needed research, I figured something out. Most of the events within the Suckening are more mechanical than I originally thought. According to the Vampire the Masquerade's wiki, the only Wikipedia page that I could trust, unlike some Wikipedia pages, the way to become Primogen, originally, is by being the eldest member of the clan, but now includes by election, violence, or orders from someone higher, such as the queen. Then I noticed a sentence with a certain hyperlink. The sentence, Primogen traditionally make up a council that is the second most powerful institution in the city, after the princedom. Prince? Okay, there's a page for VTM Prince. What does it say? What? Stephen Thunderhorse. What? No. You, Charlie Slimesicle, are you telling me that Edward Twilight, the recreation of a recreation, the hand-me-down of a hand-me-down of JRWI, is actually the Prince of LA? Mechanically the Prince of Los Angeles! Looking at this, everything is way more mechanical, even down to some major NPCs. So the prince has the ability to appoint certain officials, namely the sheriff, the keeper of Elysium, and the scourge. The sheriff, or the Cynthian, upholds and enforces the traditions. For the sake of brevity, let's just say the masquerade, and is essentially the second in command or right-hand man to the prince. If that's not the description of Deacon Keller's job, then I don't know what is. The Keeper of Elysium is just that, the person who is in charge of the neutral ground vampiric hub known as Elysium and can schedule/cancel events. Renwick the Ravenous is literally called this in the episode, I'm pretty sure. And finally, the Scourge is like the muscle or the bodyguard to the prince. But by definition, they are responsible for the destruction of vampires 14th generation plus, and those illegally embraced or sired. What a perfect front for Viv and Vex Wayland to do their experiments! Another thing the prince can do is called a blood hunt. It's basically like the Purge, but specifically on vampires who commit heinous crimes against the masquerade, like breaking it, or diablerie, or repeated defiance of authority of the prince. This is basically the final 2 episodes, quite literally. They were on what is called the Red List and put in a playpen of final death. It's all there, right in front of us, hidden by how well he is played. A pompous ass with the ego the size of the Hindenburg. Now, what does this all mean? What is the final verdict upon this mystery of mysteries? Here's what I think. From the top, Edward Twilight was sired not by the Primogen, but by the prince. He went to get funny plastic surgery by the Weylin twins, then placed himself at the head of the table by diablerie. Yes, I still think he ate his sire, who is not the Primogen, but is the prince. The only way to become prince of an area or city is by claiming it. And what's more powerful than metaphorical regicide? After the makeover and the takeover, this break in vampiric society is not over, for he has one more thing to do. He then blood bonds with every Primogen, so they can't say no to him no matter how hard they try. I think it's safe to say he eventually blood bonds with every vampire in LA. This also makes sense why the main cast isn't infected at first. Shiloh being from a completely different country, Arthur and his entire deal despite canonically hanging out with Edward's clique in New York for an amount of time, and Measle is a fledgling who was accidentally sired by another fledgling. He also commissioned Viv and Vex to anamorph people into clones, which is wild. Like, when that part was dropped, I had to take a breather to recollect myself from this astronomically batshit crazy bit. There is no way this has any mechanical... No! You're not real! Charlie Slimesicle, you set this up to personally spite me, didn't you? Because that's how I'm taking it! Are you trying to tell me that most of the events and NPCs have more mechanical function in the campaign that is literally titled The Suckening? Why don't you slap me with the rule book while you're at it? Bah! Closing statements. Edward Twilight is a criminal. He commits the most heinous act a vampire could ever think about doing. Nonetheless, to someone of high stature as the prince of a city, he manipulates every single person around him. Not only by discipline, but also by basically drugging other vampires, tricking them into drinking his blood. He canonically made the Twilight franchise, which is probably the largest masquerade break known to man. And the worst part is, he could go off completely scot-free. He gets to get away with it, which I will not stand for. In Season 2, nay, when Season 2 comes around the corner, you better believe I will be first in line getting that son of a bitch shut down. I will blue-skidoo weekend 2 into the game world and beat that sucker up myself. That is the end of the video. I would like to thank Artemis and Charon, specifically, for being on call with me to listen to that small segment that had Eddie Twi's backstory, and then going on to inspect the clothing of each character in superfluous detail. I would also like to thank my dad for helping me film the intro bits, walking around various public places and filming. He's the real one. This video has been months in the making, only sidetracked by overthinking and procrastination. But we got here in the end, eh? Alright, that's it for me today. See you later.